Namaste, Namaskar to all the PGuru audience, and no need for me to repeat it. It's a very delightful thing to talk to the PGuru audience, and because of the comments I receive and also the erudite thinking, I thank Sri Iyer for providing this good opportunity. Today we will talk about this Adani saga. I think that would be a good headlines for today's talk. We will like to focus on some of the issues and just see what is the nature of the first and foremost. Let me have a what is it called? They say it in terms of self confession or self type of declaration. I do not own any shares in any of the Adani enterprises or any bonds, or I don't have any link with any of his enterprises. I have never met him in my life. At least in the case of Ambani, I had met him as part of a larger group of faculty members because he was our chairman, IIM Bangalore, and he used to come and meet faculty. In the case of Adani, I never even met him as a part of any group or anything. So that is the disclaimer, which is very important. So first and foremost is there is a lot of noise has been made about this Hindenburg report. Hindenburg report on Adani companies, and and large number of comments are coming from various quarters. And first criticism is that he has been helped with the government. That makes me laugh actually. I want to find out any one business or industrialist in the whole world, not in India, who has built his empire without any help from government. So that I think that criticism is very funny to me. All over the world, I am telling, whether it is General Motor, Ford Motor, or whether it is Kaisens or Japanese or South Korean, or the only point is to what extent these are acceptable or not acceptable and other. For instance, even in the IT industry, there has been a lot of criticism in those days. I am talking in the 90s that this land has been allotted at a very very nominal price and other. And land is controlled by government. Where else the enterprises will go and get land? Some of this criticism I can never understand. Anyhow, so if you go back in the history in the 80s and 90s, Ambanis have been, Dhirubhai Ambani, I am talking about the father, not the current one, has been significantly criticized by Arun Shauri, Gurumurthy, and not that their criticism were not valid or anything. They were severely criticized in terms of his trading practices, in terms of his manipulation, in terms of his getting to know the excise duty numbers and oil exploration. So many areas. And there was a McDonald, if I remember correctly, Foreign Forest and Economic Review. That time he was correspondent. He publish a book called Polyester, Prince of Polyester or Polyester Prince. Anyhow, exposing all these activities of this group. And I think in India it got restrained, or HarperCollins could not bring it out. Anyhow, the point is so much research was undertaken in order to, and obviously he was also very close to Murali Deora. That time Congress MP. Actually, they were supposed to be in partnership in doing the yarn business when he came back from Dhirubhai came back from Aden. So there were then after that, after some time, actually, if I recall correctly, much later in the 90s, Indian Express, which carried so much about him, began to write articles, some sort of pricing him and other thing. And it is all now. Now I don't think the younger generation even may know much about it. Now Mukesh Ambani is one of the what you call major icons of our business activities and industry and other things. Nothing succeeds like success. So government role is so severe in a country like India. You have to have some amount of help from the government or influence in the government or whatever way you put it in order to build your empire. So that I don't think can be a very major. Second is he has not built something in the air or something. Not even related to much of software or anything. Actually, hard companies he has built. He has got a power sector, Mundra port, one of the earliest port, which is actually doing a significant contribution. Even though Gujarat has got so many ports, but none of them were professionally run and making a gain, which he entered into and then got into. And then much later he got into media also. And there are reports suggesting NDTV is having good amount of shareholding and other things. Just like the Ambanis have got some amount of control in CNN group of news. Point is, Adani has created physical infrastructure. That is something very, very important. And the same thing I used to tell about Ambanis also. They have created physical infrastructure in terms of their petrochemical plant, in terms of all this. So when you create such amount of physical infrastructure, for instance, some numbers in his power group of Adani, from 820 billion was the total assets in 22. Earlier it was 788 billion in 21. So there is a huge amount of once you create a huge amount of physical infrastructure, you cannot be easily toppled or accused of being this or that another thing. It's not like other type of activities like that. So one is, some people say that he did not have the big four as auditing firm. I can only laugh at that. That it's not that when once you have one of the big four as your auditing firm, everything is honky dory. For instance, if you go back to Satyam or if you go back to Enron, they were all, if I recall correctly, audited by big four only. So it's not sine qua non that you must have them or anything like that. Other issue is this writing about these business groups in the 50s. Many would not even remember it. There was a mystery of Birla House. One Devjyoti Burman, he wrote about it, and that book was not even available in the market. I think some Calcutta-based company published it, and it disappeared from the market. I am told that there is only one copy available in the Delhi, that rare books Delhi museum. One copy is there, and some people say that's not the correct copy. Anyhow, he is supposed to it was in the 50s. He is supposed to have exposed the Birla thing, and Birla House. All the they were in jute, and so much amount of criticism used to be there in those days on the Birlas, Bankurs, Tapars, and so attacking the business is not something new. It's not the first time it has come out or anything. That is something I want to stress. The timing of it is highly interesting. He is going to offer this public issue, and that is the time. And also, they themselves told that they have got a huge amount of short sales. Short sale is by and large selling something which you don't own, anticipating the price to fall, and then you go and acquire it in order to make the benefit. Suppose I sell say Asian Paint today without having that Asian Paint, hoping that the prices of Asian Paint is going to come down. As an example only I am giving. And when the prices actually come down, I go and buy it, and then and today I have sold it at a price, and when I buy, that price is much lower, and correspondingly I settle it. This is the type of short sales which is talked about. Bond market, it is slightly more complicated compared to the share market. Anyhow, the idea is that they did gain, I am sure, something because of the fall in the market capitalization of the Adani shares. So the timing of it is highly intriguing. And the other aspect is people are telling he should be exonerated in the US court. I think that's a very extremely wrong way of looking at things, because we have our same argument came for the BBC thing also. People then will begin to say that Modi should appear in the UK court or US court in order to get himself exonerated from the 2002 issue. And that's not a good way to argue. We have our court, we have our system, we have our accounting firms, we have our SEBI, whatever may be their deficiencies, whatever may be. So immediately we cannot conclude that global regulators, global corporates are the ones which are. The second is there also some people are questioning why the CFO. Recently I think he gave a interview, or he gave a thing to the press. Behind him was the Indian flag. They are telling, obviously, Adanis are an Indian group, so they would like to project it as an Indian issue. Any other German company or any other French company would have done the same thing in their country. So this is not something, I don't think that should be taken up as a major thing. In a sense, of course, it's a big hit on the Indian economy, particularly the corporate aspect of it, because he is one of the largest or second largest in the economic sphere. So one can also say that that's a big hit. Now, how much it has to be looked at is an issue. Obviously, I am sure SEBI is already looking at many of the dimensions of the issues raised, both by the report of Henderson as well as by the response of Adanis in terms of the report. And I am sure RBI is also looking at it, and so many other agencies will be closely monitoring what is happening. That ought to be the case. It's not something which is should not be the case or anything. And of course, if you say that all these agencies are not going to do their task well, only the Justice Department of US can do it, then nothing can help you. In the sense, then every case should be shifted to US or UK only, not in here. So that is the attack on him or whatever it is. The timing of it is something which is highly suspect. That is something I think we should keep in the back of the mind. Why now? It could have been much earlier, or it could have been. And there are reports, I don't want to go into each, large number of companies which this particular group as Hindenburg has done this type of research and other things. They have gained enormously in terms of short selling. So it is not something which is new or anything. If I remember the number, some 20-25 companies, they have done the analysis, and they are known for this in terms of what you may loosely call a hit job, and nothing. And institutional investors in India, I don't think they should really be immediate major concern, because the proportion of that what is invested, for instance, LIC, if you take by regulation, what are called prescriptive. There is one thing called prescriptive, other thing called prudential in terms of the insurance company investment. We follow prescriptive. 50% of it is in the central government securities, and another 25% or 20% in the state government or equivalent. So like that, and so the amount of proportion which goes into the equity market is with all the regulations of credit rating should have been more than from two credit rating agencies, AA or AAA and all that. So it's not something which the entire LIC money is tied up with Adani or something. Of course, you look at it has become political. You look at the 60s, everybody was talking about Tatas and Birlas controlling and they were the what you may loosely call the whipping boys. And justifiably, in the sense, anybody who claims themselves to be socialist and others have to attack the big capital. And these were the two names. and today it is Ambani and Adani. I don't think even if I'm not telling it will happen. I'm just telling even if Adani empire crumbles, I don't think Modi is going to be out of power due to that. I don't think Modi has any stake in this, and it will have an impact on the economy, not so large. You see, all the listed companies put together, their share in the Indian GDP will not be more than 12 to 15%. Let's be very clear. I'm not talking about listed company, all the corporate put together. All the listed company put together maybe 6 to 7% of our share of GDP. Our GDP share is something like this, 18% roughly, plus minus you take is agriculture. Another 18% plus minus you take is government, 36%, and another 14-15% will be the corporate sector. All corporate I am talking about, not just listed corporates. And the remaining 50 comes from what are called the partnership and proprietorship firms. And they are very largely involved in retail trade, wholesale trade, then hotels and restaurant. I'm talking about very, very small hotel, including those which are in the push cart, pani puri sellers and other things. And one truck owners, one bus owners, all these people, the transportation sector, construction. Again, all these individual house construction activity. 83% of Indian labor roughly is employed in self-employment or in contract labor. Other than that, we have fitter, plumber, carpenter, all type of people. So, what we should be clear is the corporate sector role itself is not very large, as in the case of US or something. US, the corporate plus government may constitute around 90%. The remaining will be what you may loosely call the self-employed groups or unorganized or that type of a thing. So, Adani group is not going to fall or anything. I'm just telling it's not going to have a major impact on the entire economy or something. For instance, the other brother of Ambani is having large amount of difficulties and other thing. And I think many of his companies are not doing well, and some of them were closed and other thing. I'm talking about Anil Ambani. Nothing. It has not made any huge dent on the entire economy. Our economy is much, much bigger, much diversified, and so of course one can use this to hit the ruling establishment, which has always taken place. During Congress time, it used to be used to hit the Congress establishment, and now during BJP time, the the what one can call the activities of the big business is closely monitored, and anybody who has gone big, whether in the education field or whether in the medical field or something, there's always a feat of clay to look at it and make a big hue and cry about it, that they have. And unfortunately, because of the socialistic mentality of the 60s, any activity which is successful is not appreciated, is by and large, it is looked at with huge amount of doubt. And government as a government is in every field. He has to, till the licensing was abolished, the government used to have the privilege of providing licenses. Then land, currently much of the land is to be what one can call aggregated or consolidated by them, and then only it can be made available. So like this, and generally I would say successful private enterprise is still yet to be appreciated. And unfortunately, sometimes wrong them is like your Satyam or like your Malaya's aeroplane or your Enron or some such get highly publicized and appreciated, and later people point out the fingers at that. But as long as the huge amount of physical assets are actually present, I don't think much will come out of this. I'm sure this will pass. Maybe after a couple of years, like today, son of Dhruva is recognized as one of the preeminent clean industrial houses, you will find that maybe after a couple of years or people will begin to talk positive of Adani if he comes out of all this what one may loosely call irritants or something. This will pass, is my view. And three things are important. Remember the timing of the report. One. Second is trying to link his activities with that of the government. So if he is wrong, then the current government is also wrong, which is, I think. A third is, of course, the relative small share of the corporate sector in Indian economy, and pulling it down is not going to in any way affect the. Actually, the household saving, recent data also revealed 3.5% or something is only going into the stock market. So we have to take into account the overall picture and also not create fear mongering that LIC is going to be falling, and all these things are, I think, highly. Uh, so we have come to a situation where any stick is good enough to beat the current government, and I think that's not a very desirable type of a method to deal with the wrongs of the current government. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patient hearing.